Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles, and with me is Dr. Andrea Moskowitz.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, and I'm a neuroscientist and psychiatrist. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hi, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. I wanted to talk today about sugar.
Okay.
Because most of us have a sweet tooth.
I know I do.
I do too, and we love our sugar. So is it true that we can become addicted to sugar?
Yes, it actually is. So what happens is when we eat sugary products or sugar, whatever, it actually leads you to crave it more. And also, if you eat things that are really, really, really sweet a lot, over time, you become less and less sensitive to how sweet things are. And the thing is, it's not just desserts. Sugar is added to a lot of processed products. If you read labels, it's in ketchup, it's in pasta sauces, it's in just a ton of different prepared foods.
Like salad dressings.
Salad dressings, thank you. And in fact, I don't know if you remember, this was a while ago, it used to be added to baby food. Then there was like a rule that stopped it. And the reason was, it was not because babies need, their pureed peaches being sweet, was because the adults were tasting it, and to them it tasted kind of sour, because actually processed peaches are have a little bit sour edge, and they were like, oh, this doesn't taste good. Or they would taste carrots and they say, oh, this doesn't taste that good. But part of the problem was that these adults were eating a lot of things with sugar added, so their ability to taste sweet had dulled over time. So to their baby, it might actually have tasted sweet.
Right. So our taste buds have changed that in order to get that hit of sweetness, we needed more sweetness.
Right.
And we lost that off switch to tell us when we had enough sugar somewhere along the way.
Or even just to tell us something is sweet enough, like a piece of fruit or something like that. And also, even more sobering, is that sugar can cause changes in the brain that are similar to the changes that are seen in people who are actually addicted to cocaine and alcohol.
Wow. So it's definitely can be considered an addiction.
Yeah.
The same way as cocaine
and alcohol. Right.
Well, it's not illegal, so that's good. Okay, but there are people who say to me, hey, wait a minute. I don't eat a lot of sugar. I always choose a sugar-free food. And there are a lot of them to choose from. And the one that comes up most often is Splenda,
right,
which has the active ingredient of sucralose. And their tagline is made from sugar, so it tastes like sugar. And what I find really interesting is that sucralose has almost 2/3 of the artificial sweetener market, 2/3. It's a huge number. It was started to be sold in 1998, which coincidentally was when the rate of overweight and obesity in the United States started to skyrocket. Mm-hmm. So, coincidence or not?
Maybe not, because it doesn't just taste like sugar. It actually tastes like sugar on steroids. Mm-hmm. It's so much sweeter than regular sugar, so it decreases our sensitivity even more. And then it also fools our bodies. Because what happens is when we eat something with carbohydrates or sugar, our body releases what's called insulin, which is a hormone that helps us use the energy source we just took in. Okay? But if you have sucralose, it also fools the body into releasing insulin. And the problem then is that it's released insulin, but there's really no active sugar in your blood for it to act on. So it just acts on whatever sugar is there, and then it drops our blood sugar levels way too low. And we start to feel hungry and shaky and faint. And guess how people deal with that?
We start to eat again.
And
maybe not the best choices of what we should be eating.
And oftentimes high carb food,
Right.
foods with a lot of sugar.
It's a problem. And you said something interesting also that I picked up on. I know a lot of people who are worried about their blood sugar, may even be diabetic, are choosing to use Splenda and products with Splenda. And this could be actually just a really bad idea for a diabetic.
An extremely bad idea.
Extremely bad idea.
Right.
Because of what you just explained. Right. And also, I just want to point out that even though it says it's made from sugar, so it tastes like sugar, Splenda is a product that was created in laboratory. Things are moved around. It is not sugar anymore by the time it gets to your cup of coffee. So, it's a great marketing campaign, but we have to be able to see through that and realize that it's really not a good option for us.
And I also want to bring up that a lot of products that are sweetened, if you actually look at the ingredients, you're not going to see sugar. You're going to see high fructose corn syrup on the ingredients. And high fructose corn syrup is used for a number of reasons. It's very concentrated. The U.S. government actually gave corn farmers subsidies to grow more corn, so it's much less expensive. But it also does stuff. It prolongs shelf life of products. It gives them that sort of puffy, golden look. Think of a Twinkie. So that's why it's become very popular to be used. It's used, unless for the Passover sodas, it's used for most commercial sodas. It's used for a lot of things. The problem is it is much sweeter. It affects our insulin levels more. It causes more spikes in our insulin levels. And the other thing is, although fructose by itself, normal fructose, is found in like every fruit and a lot of vegetables and things like that, this is super concentrated, and it really puts a strain on our liver. And people have started to develop and this is, I think, relatively kind of new. It used to be the only people who developed liver problems for what they were eating or drinking most of the time were alcoholics, But now you have a lot of people having what's called so-called fatty liver. And the reason is because they're having to deal with this high concentrated fructose. The liver is turning it into fat, and it's getting stored right in the liver as fat. And having a fatty liver can lead to liver failure and need for a transplant down the line.
And I think there are people, younger and younger people, who we're seeing with fatty liver right now because of what they're eating and drinking.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like in my practice, I see, mostly children and teens. I've seen a number of teenagers. I usually get blood work. I've seen a number of teenagers with fatty liver already, 16, 17 years old. Now, it does seem like it reverses if they change their diets, but it's pretty scary to see that in a 17-year-old.
Right. So what can we do instead? I'm a big fan that if I'm going to bake something, I'm going to use sugar. Right. If I'm going to make brownies, I'm going to use sugar because that is a treat, and I'm not looking to substitute. Right. I know some people use stevia, right, or xylitol. Right.
Yeah, there have been a number of studies on stevia. I think it does have this sort of bitter taste if you use too much. It's like over 200 studies. It seems to be fine. Xylitol also can be fine, except there are some people who are sensitive to it and can develop diarrhea with it. So that can be like not a great choice for everyone. I think also, a lot of times we can just cut down on the amount of sugar or sweetener in a recipe and still have it taste good, but not necessarily be like so sweet.
Right. Yes.
And actually I have some recipes from my grandmother who, sugar back then, this was in the early 1900s, was very expensive. So people didn't use so much in their recipes. So a lot of her baked goods, they taste good, but they're not so sweet.
Right. Yeah. So today we have a guest, Vonnie Tomlinson. Vonnie has over 20 years of bodywork experience, a 30-year passion in nutritional therapy, and after her own struggles with autoimmune disease, chronic inflammation, and insulin resistance, Vonnie is a true believer that food is our best medicine. She has experienced firsthand that diseases will go away when the body is given the nutrients it needs. In addition to developing her own nutritional therapy and deep tissue bodywork business, which is called Pure Health Transitions, Vonnie is the mother of 3 children and is passionate about feeding them healthy and with properly prepared, nutrient-dense whole foods. Welcome, Vonnie.
Hi.
Hi.
So today Andrea and I are talking about sugar and how people have developed a sweet tooth and that we can't stay away from indulging quite often. So we'd like to hear your thoughts about sugar and your experience of how you help your clients maybe wean themselves off the sugar train. But first, talk to us a little bit about your journey and how you became involved in nutritional therapy.
Okay. I've always been really interested in food, and I think I come from a place where I used to be like a real carb addict. We grew up eating a lot of processed food, lots of cereal in the morning, and sandwiches with whatever bread my mother was buying, and pasta. And so it got to be with that, I was really stuck in the fat phobic era and just kind of lived on carbs. And it came to be that I realized, I'm an athlete, so I was only probably 15, maybe 20 pounds overweight at the most. So no one ever really thought, oh, she's unhealthy. But turned out that I was almost diabetic when I started to get tested, and I was completely insulin resistant. My pancreas had basically stopped producing insulin. The levels were super low. I just never got the diabetic
diagnosis.
No one ever actually labeled me as such, but it was to the point where my pancreas was really burned out, and I was like, oh my gosh, someone like me could look so healthy and be so sick. And so that's when I really dove in and started learning about what sugar and carbohydrates can do,
right,
and how hard it is to come off of it.
Right. So, so once you came to this realization that your body was not well, and that it was not healthy, how did you start to explore and learn about these, different options, and what did you try first, and when did you find success?
Okay. We were living in Australia at the time. I don't even think I told you that I live in Salt Lake City right now.
Right.
Formerly from Seattle, Washington, but I spent about 2 years in Australia and it was like 2009, 2010. And I just got really introduced to gluten-free, grain-free diets over there. And so that's when I really started realizing how much of that stuff I was eating. And I started playing around with not eating any grains and really coming off of processed foods and seeing sugar. I was doing this workout with this guy over there, and he was like, he even introduced me to looking at labels of, I remember he was talking about pasta sauce having sugar in it, and at that time, it's not even that long ago, but I hadn't really been one to scrutinize labels that closely and realize, oh my gosh, sugar is everywhere. It's in everything. Salad dressings, salsa, the things that don't even need to be sweet are still sweetened,
Right. There's so many hidden sugars in our food right now that we're not really aware of it. Like you said, reading labels is such an important thing. So you started walking away from sugar. Did you miss it?
It was really hard for me. I was not one of the people who could just do it overnight. I realized I was addicted. Mm-hmm. I got really moody with it and without it. My blood sugar would drop, and I felt like I just had these intense cravings, and it was tough for me. I was a really resistant type person, and I've since had clients who are similar to me, and I can really relate to that. So, I've also had the clients who it's so easy for them, and I was like, wow, I am not that. It was not me. It was not easy.
Right. So that talks to how individual we all are. There's some people it's very easy for them to give up carbs. And I'm like you, I get very nasty if I don't eat carbs. So I totally understand. So what do you tell your clients when they come to you and they say they're trying to transition off sugar? What tips and advice do you give them to make that transition easier so that they don't fall back into those bad habits?
Well, first, I like to have people write down some goals. I really think it's important to to write down why you want to do it and what your real intention is. Like it helps so much if you define your purpose and why you want to change your habits, you know, and so that's kind of my first step with people. And then I kind of take them through helping them figure out if it's habitual or if it's a craving, because sometimes it's not both. Sometimes it's just a habit, but it's not a true craving. So I kind of go into whether it's a craving or a habit, you know, and then we just dive really into all the emotional reasons why people reach for food.
Because you also do massage and body work and biofeedback. That's part of how you treat. So that I'm guessing that must help also in terms of getting people more in touch with whether they have this craving and how they can address it. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. When someone starts to open up their body, they just start to tune in more. And sometimes people don't even realize what they're doing. And I think I was that person who was just snacking. I probably was the person who ate 6 to 8 times a day without really tuning into why or what it was all about. So I think first is awareness and realizing what you're doing, writing down what you're eating. And so you can actually see it, you know, see what you're doing.
And how do you, in terms of raising your children, like what, you know, everybody's exposed, I'm sure, their friends, and how do you address, you know, their eating habits in your home and outside the home?
My kids are 5, 9, and 11, and I'm noticing right now my girls are 9 and 11, and they I'm so impressed with their ability to say no to candy at school, for instance. That's been a really big one, is why does every teacher pass out candy? And that, you know, and just, I think for what I try to teach my kids is why they might not want it. I don't just say, don't take it, because they're not really, I think they need to learn why, you know, why is it bad for you? What is it doing to you? Because if you just tell them no, it's not going to work. It's not going
to work with the kids. Do you have any of your clients who come in and say, well, you know, I only eat, you know, Splenda, or, you know, the artificial sweeteners?
Yes. I have clients who think that they can do, you know, the diet soft drinks and all the artificial sugars, and that's okay.
And what do you tell them?
Well, the truth is that what I tell them, it's your brain is still, you're like tricking your brain. You're telling your brain still thinks that it's getting sugar. So you sometimes still get the insulin surge. Like your body can act as if your glucose is raising, even though it's not. And it's very addictive.
Yes.
I think it rewires your brain chemistry to need like super sweet food. So you forget that normal food actually is really sweet.
So I know you're a baker. When you bake, like, do you use real sugar? Do you use maple syrup or honey? Do you use, what are your tricks?
I used to. So when I first started kind of changing my sugars, I got rid of all the like white sugars and brown sugars, and I switched first to coconut sugar and maple syrup and and honey. But, you know, I've really moved away from that. I think I'll still use, first of all, if I'm just like looking at a recipe online, I know that I can completely cut the sugar in half, if not more. And then I always choose, I use a lot of stevia to sweeten, and you hardly need any. It gets really bitter if you have too much. So that makes it really easy to not use too much.
Right.
And there's a couple other sugars I'll use carefully, is the erythritol and the xylitol. And those are both alcohol sugars, but they don't cause the digestive distress like some of the other alcohol sugars do.
Right. But you do have to adjust your recipes based.
Yeah, but not that much. You really don't.
Okay.
They are Well, you do for stevia, but the alcohol sugars, you don't. You, if anything, you need a lot less than normal sugar.
Okay, great. So any other tips you want to let our audience know, and in terms of just overall having, helping with, reducing their reliance on sugar?
Yeah. I often tell my clients, if the cravings aren't going away, make yourself commit to 14 to 21 days where you're not even letting yourself have the stevia or the xylitol and erythritol, so your brain has a chance to reset itself. And then you focus on, oh my gosh, these carrots are so sweet. You can even taste the sweetness in spinach, and it really does work.
Right. It does. It really does. You realize that you've been fooling yourself. The amount of sweetness that you can dial it back and still get that same goodness out of it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Great. All right, Vonnie, thank you so much. You can find Vonnie online at Pure Health Transitions. If you want to talk to her any more about her nutritious and nutrient-dense easy meals and any of her recipes. So go check her out.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thanks so much, Vonnie.
Okay.
Bye. And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004. Post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook with the hashtag #LetMyPeopleEatPodcast. If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends and family and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts.
And please remember that although we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own health practitioner about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Scharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us.
And go in good health.